Swatikap. Good afternoon, everyone, and Happy New Year 2026 to all of you. Thank you for joining the first webinar series, Intellectual Property of Thailand and Philippines, Episode 1. Today, we are very happy that we will walk you through the presentation, FDA investigations and responses, case study in Thailand, Vietnam, and Indonesia. Three of us, Ms. Ian, Irene, and myself, Atashai, will cover and provide you the full regional pictures. If there is the FDA investigations, what you should do in order to protect your brand and also to engage in the industry with the full compliance. So first, let's start with Thailand. But before we go to the Thailand topic, kindly allow me to tell you a little bit about our intellectual property and regulatory affairs. Thailand and Philippines, as you know, we are the regional law firm, the leading law firm in Southeast Asia. We have offices in Thailand, Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, Vietnam, and Indonesia. And our law firm, we have the expertise lawyers in intellectual property and regulatory affairs who specialize in the healthcare related and healthcare products law. So we are very happy to assist you if you have any question about the product registration, IP related matters, FDA compliance, product recall, and brand protection of your healthcare products. So now let's get the ball rolling. Why this FDA investigation and brand protection is important to you. Because when we talk about the FDA investigation, this is not about the document review, not about the paperwork problem, but it is the real world situation. It is the incidents that the FDA investigate and found non-compliance. And such non-compliance can lead to the repeat public alert, product recalls, or even the enforcement, which eventually impact on the reputation of your brand, of your company. More importantly, the consumer trust and possible the enforcement exposures. So these sections we centers on the protecting of your brand value through the proactive compliance, how to work with the FDA, the recall scope, and how to close the coordination with the Thai FDA nicely. How do the FDA investigation start? There are many reasons why the FDA investigate. The first one is very simple because we filed by ourselves. It is the voluntary self-reporting by the industry, by the business. So this means that the company itself find the errors, find the problem, such as the quality issue of some specific lot or probably the manufacturing process of that date has been problem. So this prompt the industry or the company to report itself to the Thai FDA. And this is actually a good thing because you can control and it shows that the company has a good transparency and it can help you a lot when you discuss and do the communication with the consumers. The second one is the consumer complaints or the adverse event reports. This pattern of complaint many times you may receive from the competitors. They knock the door, they blow the whistle to the Thai FDA, or the customer itself has the issue of the product quality. And these trigger the FDA to ask the questions and investigate what's going on. And the last one we call regulatory inspection. These include both routine or planned audit and surprise audit or an announced audit. The surprise audit sometimes we call as a dawn raid because this is an unannounced and on-site inspection wherein the FDA officer arrives to the manufacturing site or the importation site without a prior notice. They attempt to review the documentation, take some sample for testing, and then they will interview the staff in order to collect the evidence and verify that the industry, the business comply with the law. So many of the company, they have the so-called dawn rate inspection training. They may engage the lawyer to help them on this scenario that if there is the dawn rate inspection, what they should do, what the people, the staff can say and cannot say, for example. So let's see the real world case. Let me give you the real example. Many of you may know the uh, herbal inhaler in Thailand. This is very famous that celebrities, families of Thai people, tourists, when they come to Thailand, they addict to this herbal inhaler. And this become the soft power of Thailand as well. Nonetheless, in last year, the Thai FDA has announced that many of the herbal inhaler found the microbial contamination. The microbial level was higher than the above limit. So what happened next shows that the FDA announced to the public that some specific lot is considered as substandard product and prompting the public to concern, especially to the vulnerable, sick people. And that is the recall measures. So the company who has been affected by the order of the FDA on the product recall, they have to interact with the FDA. Nonetheless, this example show you that there is the technical problem and it can become the big news, the bad news for the company very quickly. Particularly when there is a safety risk, the FDA has the obligation, has a duties to inform the public because the law requires this. The FDA cannot stay silent to protect a brand. So the company itself has to respond in the very first hours and in a very first day. This is very important. A good response can help recover the trust of the customer. But the bad response can cause the long-term damage, as you can see in the news. And once the FDA conduct the dawn rate, they found a lot of mistakes. For example, the facility is not registered with the FDA. There is no pharmacist, no doctors at the premises. So these are the problems that when they do the dawn rate, the problem comes and discover more and more. That's why today we learn how to interact and how to handle the FDA investigation. So let me summarize the Thailand framework, how the FDA and consumer tips on the product quality problem. The Thai FDA oversee the variety of products, including the herbal products, food, cosmetic, food supplement, medical device, and pharmaceuticals. They also regulate the facilities that the facility must be registered and obtain the good manufacturing practice certificate. Furthermore, they also review the label and advertising, which become the core requirements in the regulatory scope. But when there is found, they find out about the quality problem, then they may have many enforcement tools. For example, they publish the rapid alerts to the public. They may issue the administrative order for the recalls and take a legal measures, for example, to proceed the case before the court. In addition, the FDA may post what they have what they have found on the FDA website, and it become the IT trade. As the brand owner, you have the liabilities and you have the accountability for the quality and safety. And thus, when there is the rapid alerts, the recalls, or the legal measures, it is the recommendation that you have to act fast and act lawfully. And as mentioned, the consumer may trigger the investigation. Their complaint to many channels. For example, the FDA hotline, they knock the door at the FDA office, or they may call your company. These are always the things that you have to take into account. Don't forget that throughout the life cycle, the Thailand framework here, the secret and the holy grail is the documentation and traceability are very essential. Now I have walked you through the example, the real world example, and the FDA strategy on the recall. So let's go into detail. What is the recall strategy? How you interact with the FDA? So as mentioned, the recall strategy, the Thai FDA rule, they recognize two types of the recall. The first one is the voluntary. Second one is mandatory. So the mandatory recall is when the FDA order you to recall. On the other hand, the voluntary one is when you start the recall by yourself after finding the problem. So it is important that the voluntary recall have a better result because you show responsibility, you control the story, and the regulator see you more positively coordinating with them. So what does the FDA expect for the product recall? They expect the truthful reporting, the transparent reporting, coordinate with them on the investigation. And it is always a good idea to include your consultant or lawyer for any FDA meetings or communication with the FDA. As mentioned, when there is the product recall or quality problem, documentation is a holy grail. So you should keep the batch record, laboratory reports, company policy on product recall on hand, and coordinate early with the FDA. Sometimes we may need to retest the product. So please make sure that you still have a retained sample at your site. And if the retest found that it is still failed the specification, then you have to set up the recall boundaries and to ensure that the public communications, such as the press release, prepare the press release, website notice, FAQ, or hotline are under the way. These are examples of the voluntary recall. For example, this is very simple product. It is the paracetamol and the pain relief product. It is the voluntary recall because the company itself found that it failed the test. So the problem is minor because it is only that the product lacks some of efficacy, but it does not harmful to the health of the people. So you can see that this is the form that the Thai FDA has been used. When you review this, you have to ensure that what is the action taken by the authority, what is the investigation report to be submitted to the FDA, for example. And finally, I would like to mention how you interact on the crisis communication and public relations. This is very important because when there is the product recall or quality problem, you do need a single source of truth. You should establish a cross-functional, or we call war room, including the legal, communication, PR, medical liaison, and the team, the war room should approve all of external content through one channel. This will avoid the inconsistency of the information. Secondly, do not forget that now we are dealing with the healthcare product. So the consumer is the first thing. You message to the consumer, you care about your health. This is very important. Clearly explain about the risks, about the harmful, affected products or the lots, and how the consumer can return or refund. In addition, having the hotline, website, or FAQ is very important. Documentation. Do not forget that you have to keep all of documentation because this will be need for the further communication with the regulatory authority. Last but not least, the digital monitoring. Nowadays, when there is the bad news, it widespread so quickly through the social media, marketplace listing. So you do need to correct the misinformation quickly with the approved FAQ and press release material. And finally, if you have the spokesperson, you must train them. You must have a message, what they can say, what they cannot. And these are the scope of work that our firm, Tiliki and Kibbins, throughout Southeast Asia can help you when there is the PR and crisis communication and brand protection. As mentioned, the first 72 hours, the first 2 days are very important and the consumer communication. So first, you have to stabilize and collect the fact. You must review that what is the lot recall, verify the findings of the FDA, collect the evidence. Then after you have collect the fact, investigate the fact, then you decide the posture, you decide the scope and the timing. For example, you may need to draft the press release or the distribution record form, something like this. And the third step is to notify the stakeholder, either the consumer, either they are the wholesale or retail, and plan for the destruction or return as per good distribution practice policy. And finally, use the transparent message press release when you want to communicate with the public. This will be the strategy that can protect the brand sustainable. So my key takeaway message for the industry is compliance. Absolutely, this is the brand protection. Compliance equals brand protection. You are protecting the brand value you have built over the years. Act fast, act voluntarily. Stability problem or quality problem can justify early, and you can gain the trust of the customer. And lastly, coordinate with the regulators. Don't forget to use the lawyers to attend the meeting, to review the communication letters that you will communicate and send to the FDA. So this is the key takeaway for Thailand. And now I will move to my colleague in Vietnam. Ms. Hien will share her thoughts about the FDA investigation in Vietnam. So Ms. Hien, please go ahead.
Hello everyone, my name is Hien. Yes, I'm from Chiliki and Gibbons, Vietnam. And yes, and I'm very happy to be here today. And I would like to share a very important topic: the Food and Drug Administration examination and response in Vietnam. Yeah, my today's session is include two big parts. One is about food examination, and two is about drug examination. To start with the food examination, let me share with you a picture of the current situation in Vietnam. Yes. According to the report from the ministry, we have many notable factors for the year of the 2024. In 1 year, Ministry of Health discovered more than 20,000 food violation cases, and they imposed more than 9,000 sanctions and bring a monetary fines about nearly 30 million US dollars. Additionally, the Ministry of Industry and Trade discovered and imposed a sanction nearly 8,000 food violation case and bring a monetary fine about 20 million US dollars. And they also destroy a lot of unsafe food. Meanwhile, the Ministry of Public Security discovered nearly 9,000 food violation cases, and they initiated a criminal case for the 62 case, and with 70% of the counterfeit food. And they also imposed nearly 9,000 sanctions and bring a monetary fines appropriate of the 30 million US dollars. And now I would like to introduce a big case in Vietnam in this year. A well-known food company in Vietnam was discovered that they involved in a network in purchasing a pork infected with African swine fever. It was then processed into canned product. And now the company was requested to immediately inform the consumer about the risk and pause the product distribution and issue a recall notice and conduct a recall program. And now the police initiate a criminal case for the against the company and the leader. In another examination, the market controls in last year was impose a sanction decision against big names supermarket in Vietnam due to their violation in trading the food product that do not comply with the registration standard. Yeah, especially the violation relating to the cholesterol, sugar, calcium content. And as a result, the supermarket was imposed a penalty of the monetary fine appropriate $7 US. So now we will move on to the legal framework. In almost food examination by the authority, they are based on the law of food safety, a degree relating to the product registration, and a specific degree on the administrative sanction for the food area. Yeah. And also the authority practical interpretation also is very important factor. And who will be regulate the food regulation and the food examination? We will have the Vietnam Food Administration under the Ministry of Health. It is at the central level. And also the responsibility for food safety in Vietnam will be shared with the another ministry such as Ministry of Industry and Trade and Ministry of Agriculture and Environment. And also the food examination may be initiated by the Market Control Authority or Food Safety Department in the province or city or economic police. In Vietnam, we have two main types of food examination. The first is the plant examination. They usually conducted during the peak period of the food production or consumption in Vietnam, such as the Lunar New Year. And another type is an ad hoc examination and based on the violation information or complaint or the request of the higher authority. And during a food safety examination, there are many aspects that the authority will check. For example, they will check the product registration dossier, or they will check the advertising content approval about the labeling information of the product or about the compliance regarding the food safety and food quality of the product with the national standard and regulation. And sometimes the authority will get the sample for testing if needed. And especially recently, the authority special pay their attention at their food advertising content. And what happened with the food examinations in Vietnam, the authority often discover many violation acts. For example, they found the incompliance in labeling, they found the incompliance in the food safety, and the matter regarding the provide the phone information during the advertising content. And with the violation, the authority may impose the penalty, and the common penalty is monetary fine. And also the authority may impose additional sentence, such as the request the company to suspend their business operation within 1 or 12 months, or they request to revoke the related certificate, or they would like to confiscate the good or means. And also some remedy measures may be imposed, like forced to recall the product or destroy the unsafe good. Yeah. So now we will move on to the drug examination. And also you can start with a picture of the current situations in Vietnam. The Ministry of Health informed that in the year of the 2025, the rate of the drug failing the quality standard is at the 1.6%. Meanwhile, the rate of the counterfeit medicine is very low. And in 1 year, the authority handled more than 80 batches of violation medicine and request for the 11 batch of recall nationwide. The DAVs in Vietnam at the end of last year, they issued the penalty against the 5 well-known pharmaceutical companies in Vietnam. And among them, the 2 companies received the highest fine levels in Vietnam, around nearly $5,000 for each company. And due to the violation that they did not carry out the procedure for drug variation registration before launching the product in Vietnam market. Yeah, I would like to introduce you another case that regarding the counterfeit pharmaceutical networks in Vietnam. That's the police discovered last year. The police says nearly 10 tons of counterfeit medicine. In particular, a network in Vietnam produce the product without the register with the authority, and they create the product name and the product and the company name with the supposed headquarters in a foreign country, like in Hong Kong, Malaysia, or Singapore, and we can easily cause the confusion for the Vietnamese consumer. So now the police has initiated a criminal case involving 14 people, and the case is now being investigated and expanded. Yeah, and the individual may face penalty of up to life in prison or the death penalty. Yeah, and they need to must be required to compensate for the damage on the victim. Yeah, I also would like to introduce another case that in the last year, the DAV Vietnam issued a sanction decision against a very well-known pharma companies in Vietnam, one of the Vietnam leading pharmaceutical manufacturer in Vietnam, due to their violation that they produce medicine that violates quality standard at level 3. And as a result, the company was imposed a monetary fine around $2,000 for their violation. and they must destroy all the violating batch of drug. Now you come to the legal framework. Yeah, in the pharma area, the examination often based on the law of pharmacy and a specific degree on the administrative penalty for violation in the health sector. We have two levels of regulatory body. At the central level, we have the drug is under the responsibility of Drug Administrators in Vietnam, DAV, under the Ministry of Health. And at the provincial level, the responsibility be shared which among the Market Control Authority, the Service of Health at the province and city, and the Economic Police. So we discussed about the scope of the drug examination. Similarly to the food examination, a drug examination also fall into two types. One is the plant examination and one is warehouse examination. And for in one drug examination, the authority often apply a very complicated and detailed checklist. That it depends on the style of the operating of the company, such as for the drug manufacturers in Vietnam, the authority may check for the quality management system and employee qualification. They also check for the facility, warehouse equipment, and the raw material to produce the drug, and they may get the sample for testing if needed. They also check for the labeling of the drug, for the packaging workflow, and the workflow for the storage. Yeah. And at the end of the drug examination, the authority may discover many violations, such as failing to perform a registration dossier procedure, especially for the minor variation, or they can find the incompliance in labeling or misleading advertising. So respond to the the violation, the authority may impose the fine and some additional sanctions. That in addition to the recall to the suspend of operation, the DAV may impose another sanction, including revocation of marketing authorization certificate, or the suspension of the new application for registration or import license. Or the DAV also may revoke the business eligibility certificate, such as GPP, GMP, for example. So that's the end of my session today. So thank you for your listening, and I'm very happy to answer your question if you have any at the end of the webinar. And now I would like to introduce my colleague, Ms. Irene, from our Indonesia office.
Thank you, Ms. Hien. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Irene Jalim, and I am the Manager of Regulatory Affairs for Tillikian Gibbons Indonesia. Today, I will be speaking on the Indonesia FDA investigations and responses following the presentations from my colleagues earlier for Thailand and Vietnam. First, I would like to give an overview of understanding the Indonesian FDA's role and authority. The Indonesian FDA is commonly referred to as BPOM, so I will be referring the Indonesian FDA as BPOM throughout my presentation. BPOM oversees safety and quality of food, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, health supplements in Indonesia. They also enforce product registration, recalls, sanctions, and monitors online and offline marketplaces. BPOM has digitized product notifications and compliance checks to enhance transparency and efficiency. They also align regulations with international bodies to standards the harmonizations and received a global notification on food safety. As for the scope and objectives of BPOM investigations, BPOM conduct investigations to identify non-compliant products and enforce strict safety standards in cosmetics and food sectors. BPOM also intensified surveillance, includes on-site inspections, cyber patrols, and collaboration with customs to prevent hazardous products. As for risk-based monitoring and digital tools, BPOM leverages risk-based monitoring and digital technologies to enhance safety and maintain consumer trust effectively. Investigations include facility audits, documentation checks, and verification of responsible personnel to ensure a thorough enforcement. Some common triggers for BPOM investigation. The first one is a labeling non-compliance. For example, a missing halal logo or certification, QR codes, or local language instructions that often trigger some cosmetic product reviews by BPOM. So many of these in compliance are for cosmetic products. Ingredient violations, the use of prohibited or restricted ingredients beyond limits causes regulatory enforcement under prevailing regulations. Advertising and marketing breaches, misleading claims, or promotions violating current regulations that prompt BPOM investigations. BPOM conduct periodic surveillance. They conduct checks to discover unregistered products and expired goods in the market. The investigation workflow from BPOM, it starts with the trigger events and pre-investigation reviews of product documentation and formulation details, and conducting on-site audits and testing. Inspectors conduct audits and lab tests to verify compliance with ingredient and labeling regulations. Then BPOM would take enforcement actions, including issuance of warning letters, product recall, import suspensions, and legal sanctions based on the findings. For compliance and risk reduction, the brand owner should maintain updated dossiers and compliance task forces to reduce the risks and facilitate a rapid response. I will talk a little bit about product recall to see how BPOM actually regulates a recall procedure in the event that BPOM enforces a recall. The regulatory framework for each category of product is governed by BPOM. So for food recall, drug recall, cosmetics recall, and traditional medicine, they all have their own regulation for the type of products. There are two types of recall, mandatory and voluntary. I believe this is the same with the other countries as well, such as Thailand that Dr. Atachai mentioned earlier. Next, I will talk a little bit about the food recall regulation because this is the most recent regulation that BPOM issued. So just to get a closer look on how BPOM actually regulates a recall procedure. So for a mandatory recall on food products, it's based on sampling and testing results, label monitoring results, advertising monitoring results, rapid alert system, food poisoning outbreaks, verification results of public complaints, results of studies on food safety or quality, inspection findings, the validity period of the marketing authorization has expired and has not been renewed or extended, the marketing authorization has been revoked, or it doesn't have a marketing authorization, or it is an unregistered product. As for a voluntary recall, it is carried out based on a risk assessment by the business actors. So a recall notice must be issued. The notice must at least contain food identity, reason for recall, recall period, and recall scope. The notice must be delivered to the distribution facilities with a copy to the head of BPOM or provincial government in accordance with their authority. To support the recall procedure, business actors must have a food traceability system as a basis for an effective recall. business actors can also refer to the system that applies internationally. Other than the food traceability system, business actors must have a written recall procedure, monitor and evaluate the effectiveness of the recall implementation. Recall classification for food. It's classified into 3 classes, class 1, 2, and 3. And class 1 is where the consumption or exposure to food is expected to cause serious health problems or even death. So this is the highest risk class. Class 2 is where the consumption or exposure to food is expected to causing temporary health problems or health problems that can be recovered, or there is a small possibility of causing serious health problems or inadequate quality. And class 3 is where the consumption or exposure of food does not cause health problems, but there is a violation of laws and regulations other than those included in class 1 and 2 recalls. So the deadlines for each class, it varies. It corresponds to the corresponding class. The recall is conducted in the distribution facilities, which can be extended to the consumer level in cases where the recall is due to serious health problems and/or death. The retailers must ensure that all recalled food is not sold or displayed at the point of sale and is kept separate from other food. Business actors provide a means for returning food products recalled from the consumers. Report and publication requirements. Business actors are required to submit a report to the head of BPOM and/or the provincial government regarding the food recall. The regulation also provides an option to the business actor whether to submit the report to the head of BPOM or the provincial government. Specifically for class 1 of the food recall, business actors must issue a publication within the recall within 24 hours since the recall instructions. Destruction of the food products. There are 2 types of destruction. The first one is issued by the head of BPOM or the provincial government, and second is voluntary destruction by the business actors. The destruction is conducted on site during inspection. Every destruction is witnessed by an officer of BPOM or the provincial government. Business actor must prepare and submit a report to BPOM and/or the provincial government regarding the destruction. Administrative sanctions. In case that business actors do not comply with the provisions and obligations related to food recall, they are subject to administrative sanctions in the form of a written warning, a fine, a temporary suspension of activity, a cease of public service activity up to 6 months, and/or revocation of marketing authorization. Now, we'll go into the best practices for compliance. So generally, business actors must ensure that all products have a valid BPOM permits or license and conduct regular internal audits to maintain compliance, maintain accurate labeling per regulations, and implement CAP systems to quickly address non-conformities. Invest in staff training, environmental controls, and documentation to meet BPOM requirements effectively. Use of digital tools to track sales and collaborate with consultants for regulatory clarity and swift corrective actions. Now we'll take a look at some cases that BPOM has conducted investigations and taken enforcement action. This is the most recent case that BPOM has officially published, is a product recall on an imported infant formula, is S26 Promil Gold pH Pro 1. The importer or registration holder is PT Nestle Indonesia. So the background is that BPOM received a global notification on food safety from ERA, SFF, and InfoSan on the product for a certain batch, and there is a potential contamination of cereulide toxins in certain ARA oil ingredients used in the manufacture of the infant formula. So BPOM ordered PT Nestle Indonesia to cease distribution and temporary suspension of importation. And how did PT Nestle Indonesia comply? They conducted a voluntary recall of products for the impacted batch. And the impacted batch was indeed imported into Indonesia, but when they conducted the lab testing, it actually showed that cereulide toxins was not detected. But voluntary recall was conducted anyway to ensure the safety and health of the infants. Second case, this was in November of last year. BPOM takes action against 13 misleading cosmetic products claiming to improve male vital functions. So BPOM investigated some cosmetic products that make false claims about improving a male sexual performance or vital functions. The findings are that there are 13 cosmetic products identified with misleading claims. And these products were marketed online through social media, targeting consumers with unsubstantiated promises. So they violated several regulations, government regulations, and some BPOM regulations. They also have misleading claims that can pose health risk and deceive consumers. BPOM actions are to order immediate product withdrawal from the market, issued administrative sanctions, and they also strengthen the monitoring of the e-commerce platforms and influencers promoting such products. BPOM urges consumers to check product registration through their official website to check whether the product is officially registered at BPOM, and avoid products with exaggerated or sexual enhancement claims. As for the next steps, BPOM will continue to cyber patrols and collaborate with law enforcement to prevent recurrence. So this is also part of the BPOM official publication. They published the photo of the products, the registration number as shown on the package, and the name of the company as the registration holder or the manufacturer. So the registration number for these products are mostly revoked, but they continue to sell it on the online platform. And there is a product number 13. The registration number is invalid. So it is actually not a registered product at BPOM. The next one is where BPOM uncovers 32 illegal herbal products. This occurred in October of last year. So BPOM found through surveillance and identified 32 illegal products without proper registration or permits. They contain hazardous substances or made false therapeutic claims. So BPOM ordered a product withdrawal and destruction, issued administrative sanctions, and BPOM strengthened the cyber patrols and collaboration with law enforcement. And again, BPOM strongly urges consumers to always check for the registration status of the product through their official website. So these are the photo of the products as published by BPOM. Again, showing the name of the manufacturer, the registration number, and the type of violations of each of the product. So in this slide, we can see that they're actually not registered because they declare a fake registration number. They also don't have a legal production facility, meaning that the facility that they use to produce the product does not have the proper permits as a production facility for traditional medicine. And these products also contain a drug chemical ingredient such as paracetamol. And traditional medicines are not supposed to contain a drug chemical ingredient. These are more of the products that BPOM discovered. And these two products are particularly, BPOM were notified from the Thai FDA. So BPOM can also take enforcement actions based on notification from another country. So in this case, these two products, they are sold in Indonesia, but they're actually not registered at BPOM. The next one is BPOM and the police, the national police, they raid illegal pharmaceutical warehouse. It's worth about 2.7 billion Indonesian rupiah. It's approximately 150,000 US dollars in Jakarta. So they seized pharmaceutical products in an authorized warehouse. These products include unregistered medicines, expired drugs, and items without proper distribution permits. Many were intended for online sale and distribution across Indonesia. So the enforcement actions from BPOM is that they confiscated all products and sealed the warehouse, coordinated with the national police for criminal investigation and prosecution of the responsible parties. They also work together to strengthen the monitoring of pharmaceutical supply chains and especially the e-commerce platforms. BPOM urges consumers to buy medicines from licensed pharmacies and verify the legality via their official website. And the last one is about illegal supplement products from the brand Dr. LSW. So this is a health supplement product claiming that it is from Korea. And the product claims to contain a health supplement ingredient, L-glutathione, and to whiten skin. But when a lab test was conducted, it doesn't actually contain the health supplement ingredient and it's not registered, so making the product illegal for sale and distribution. So BPOM ordered a product withdrawal and initiated enforcement measures against the distributors. Also strengthened cyber patrols to monitor online sales and influencer promotions. These are the photos of the products that BPOM has found. So BPOM actually showed just the visual difference of these products. These are the variants of the brand, but BPOM shows that these products are illegal even without going further into a laboratory testing. So just looking at the physical difference. So the first one we can see it's a different package size, but it's the same net weight. So it contains 50 capsules with two different size of packaging. And the color of the package, the left is different from the right. Different color of the FDA logo, different holograms. So these are the visual difference of the products that BPOM can identify that these are illegal products. And more visual difference of the products, looking at the hologram between the left and the right. And then there's the emboss on the left product and there's no emboss on the right. So these products are just not consistent and BPOM can identify that these are illegal products. And looking at the capsule shell and the content, looking at the color is different for both the shell and the powder inside the capsule. And that would end my presentation.
So thank you for joining, and we hope that the section here is helpful. If you have any question about the intellectual property, compliance law, healthcare related law, please feel free to let us know. And hope to see you again in the IP webinar series in the next section. Wishing you have a good weekend ahead. Goodbye.